Welcome to Office Hours. Today is the last Wednesday of 2020. Hooray! 2020. It is December 30th. And even though it's the week between Christmas and New Year's, we're still talking SEO because we love it so. We had two questions submitted a couple weeks ago, and we didn't get to them a couple weeks ago. But they're both very similar. So I wanted to kind of combine them together and talk about them in one big session. And so I'll try to summarize the questions, and then Tricia, you and Steffi, if you want to elaborate on the questions any before we kind of get into it. But the idea is related to something we talked about a few weeks ago, which is the idea that we want to establish our authority and credibility on our website. And we want people to see that we are the experts that we say we are. And one way to do that is put like testimonials on your site, display maybe reviews that people have submitted on your site so that people can see that they give you the credibility that's there. And then how to do that, especially when it comes to what we call schema markup, which is the kind of invisible HTML code that Google can interpret. And sometimes when Google sees the schema markup, they might change the way the search results are displayed in our advantage. So that was kind of the questions that were submitted. How to do that, why to do this, when to do it, should you do it? Does that kind of capture the questions you two had?
Yeah, and then also I think that this kind of included, but as far as like the different pages, because and I don't know if that's in schema markup or not, but like if you have a specific review related to like a specific service, you would put it on that service page.
Right.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. So what I like about this as an SEO task is that even if we don't get any SEO benefit from it directly, it's going to help, right? So that's what's great about this as a task. There might be some SEO benefit from us, especially if we add schema so that Google can interpret the reviews and show our search results better. But even if it doesn't, it still helps establish us with credibility because people can see we are the experts we say we are. So I want to just kind of establish that to say that even if this doesn't give us some sort of SEO boost, it's probably worth our time to do. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and I kind of prepared a couple slides here. So I don't want to, hold on. I want to share. Oh yeah, there we go. All right, got it. Are you seeing my entire screen or just the window?
The window.
Okay, good. All right, sorry, it is getting a little weird through Zoom. So I'm going to focus on this conversation from the technical schema perspective because that's the hard part. The easy part is getting reviews and getting people to give us a test. Now, that being said, yeah, you're right. Sometimes it's hard to get people to give you a review.
I think a lot of it is harder for businesses to ask for the reviews.
That's it, exactly. We've kind of talked about this in the past, right? You just have to ask for it, make it part of your process. Sometimes I like to send those reviews straight into third-party tools like Google My Business, or we want the service that shall be unnamed, or Facebook, and that's great. But putting them on our site can be really helpful. But if we want to have an SEO benefit from it, we want to make sure we encode it using structured data. Now, this is Google's structured data testing tool. And I'm bringing this up here today, even though this tool is about to be graveyarded. They're getting rid of it and replacing it with the rich results tool, which is far inferior.
Ugh.
But schema.org will host a version of this tool eventually. Pardon me. I think their aim is to have it done by February. So, and what I like about this tool is that we can, we can actually type in some code and test the code to see what it looks like, and this code tells us what the problem is. So for instance, if we wanted to write some schema, we can just literally put the code in here, run the test, and it tells us what our problem is. It's a really great way to troubleshoot the problem. But the other important part of this tool is to explore the search gallery. And this is all the different forms of schema that we can add to our website that Google looks at. There's a lot of things encoded in schema. Theoretically, everything on our site could be encoded in schema. But there are certain things that Google considers and certain things Google ignores. This is the stuff Google considers. So some of this we've talked about before, the article schema, which is a way for Google to understand that what part of your page is in an article and certain information about that article. If you use the Yoast SEO plugin, you automatically have this added to your blog posts. Yay, done. Other things that people don't use all the time, book, if you're selling books. Breadcrumb markup is another one almost anybody can add. And what that does, if you can see on the screen, this one is example of life with cats, and it has a greater than sign TV, greater than sign news. What breadcrumb markup will do in the search results is change your URL to something a little bit more user-friendly like this. This does a couple things. This, number one, makes your website stand out from everyone else who just has a URL in the search results. But also establishes that if you've done your breadcrumbs right, that Life with Cats has a section greater than that on news. And so you start to see what people can see what's in your website. So there's some advantages in that.
And is that, I'm sorry, is that
yeah.
also a part of the Yoast plugin?
No, Yoast comes with the ability to do this, but you have to build it into a theme. So you have to change your theme to put Yoast's breadcrumb code in there properly. So there's some theme modifications to do that. Anyway, the one we're talking about, you look through these and see, because a best practice is every once in a while to go through Google's search gallery of schema and say, do any of these apply to my website? Events, FAQs, that's an interesting one we won't get into. How-tos might be interesting. Local business, a lot of us should think about that one there. Logo is one that Yoast does automatically for you. It basically helps affect your knowledge graph, which we talked about previously. The one we're talking about today is called the review snippet. And you can see why this is such a coveted snippet or schema to add to your site, because what this might do for you is allow you to have a star rating in the search results organically. So if you're competing in the search results, there's a bunch of other websites, but your website is the only one with 4 or 5 star reviews, your listing is going to stand out amongst all your competitors. And even if you're not the #1 position, all those eyes are going to go straight to you, and you could potentially get more traffic from even if you're not ranking #1. Now, there is a rumor that Google will give you a ranking benefit for including schema. even if it doesn't display it. But I don't like to play games like that. So part of me is like, if you can do it easy, just do it, right? Why wouldn't you? But for something like review snippets, this gives you another advantage of the display of stars.
And it's pulling in, just to clarify, the Google reviews, not the ones on your website that you might place there manually.
This is on your website only.
Oh, really?
Yes,
The website, not Google.
not Google. It's not pulling in Google reviews. You are adding code to your page to tell Google, people have reviewed me at such a star level. And if Google considers that credible, they will add the stars from your own website.
But like, this is like, reviews from Google are legitimate in that you can't delete them and whatnot. Whereas if on your website, you could only post good reviews, right? Or
Yeah, you're getting there. Exactly. So I'm going to skip to the bottom.
On that though is like, does this mean that like, so for instance, I have all of mine like third-party reviews. I don't have like a review system on my website. Would I have to have a review system where people leave reviews directly on my website?
yeah,
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So
it can't be manual testimonials that you just insert into an article.
and that's why I'm skipping to the end
Okay.
of this document, the guidelines. So this is the key. Reading these guidelines, as well, all things with Google, read the rules. One of the things that Google has been doing lately is if they believe you are gaming their star rating system by doing this on your own site, Google will send you a nastygram. Now, the nastygram says, we are not going to show the ratings because we don't believe you. So the implications of that are, you did all this work and Google's not showing it. Okay. Doesn't mean people who come to your site don't see the reviews. It just means that Google's not going to add it in the search results. Okay. So there are very specific guidelines. Make sure you have an aggregate rating. And that's what Google uses to decide to show in your search results. It's an aggregate rating. So and the aggregate rating is the way to use Schema. Notice they're linking to schema.org/aggregate rating. That's the HTML you're adding to your site to get that. But you're rating something. And that is the real trick here. There are only certain kinds of things that Google allows you to review to qualify for aggregate rating. So refer specifically to a product, a service, by nesting the review within the markup of another schema type, such as book or recipe. So you can review a book and you can review a recipe, but you can't just review, here's some reviews, because the reviews have to apply to something. And we'll talk about the things it has to apply to in a second. Make sure the ratings you mark up are available to users from the marked up page. It should be immediately obvious to users that the page has review content. So you can't just put the code on your site. You need to show that this person rated you 5 stars. This person rated you 4 stars. The aggregate rating is 4.5 stars, and that needs to be all visible to people. Okay. Some of this is technical.
And it seems like what really available to users, meaning that they can review as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to, if the review snippet is for a local business or organization, which is probably what most of us will use, you have these additional guidelines. Pages using local business or any other type of organization structured data are ineligible for star review features if the entity being reviewed controls the reviews about itself.
Ah,
Mhm.
For example, a review about entity A is placed on the website of entity A, either directly, okay,
so it's kind of like no review gating on, they won't allow you to do that.
well,
Mhm.
but let's keep reading. Ratings must be sourced directly from users.
Mhm.
Don't rely on human users, editors to create, curate, or compile ratings. Sites must collect ratings information from users and not from other sites. So, considering these guidelines as it relates to a local business or organization, what that means is if you're going to display them on your own site, you need to have certain things. Number one, the ratings, each of the items that come to the aggregate need to be visible. Two, anybody needs to be able to fill out a review. So there needs to be some sort of intake form on the page that shows you are inviting people, anybody who wants to review you. Two, you can't be curating them. So that means you have to display all those that come in, good or bad. Now, there are third-party services and tools that can do this for you. I've worked with the developer before, and we built, I think we used advanced custom fields in WordPress, and we built out a system that did this. It had a form, very simple form, what's your name, what's your email address, give us a star review, tell us why what you liked about us. And we just had it displaying all the reviews. And so Google could literally count, there are 5 reviews. The aggregate rating says there are 5 reviews. We could see the averages, it's all encoded properly. And if you have the intake form there, you are showing that you're able and you're not curating. Now, here's where we get a little sneaky. How does Google know whether you're curating them or not?
Yeah.
You're taking them in, but they don't know if you're aggregating them. They can't possibly know that. So if we could do this in a nefarious way where we only display the ones that are good. And I think all of us are familiar with the idea that none of us trust something that's 100% 5 stars, and we want to see some failures or some 4 stars because we just know people are critical. Maybe we want to see a 3-star now and then just because we know, hey, things don't always go the right way. So what if only the ones that were displayed were 3 or better? Now you would be curating to do that, and by curating, you will be breaking these rules. But then that comes a question of how does Google know that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just would think that you would pull in reviews from Google to your site, like through a plugin or something.
Yeah.
You could, but you wouldn't get the star rating showing up on your site because this says you must collect ratings directly from users and not from other sites.
Yeah, that's the part I'm really just dumbfounded by. Like,
Yeah. Well, I know it's like you would think that Google would trust their own reviews more than they trust.
But they don't want to look like they're favoring somebody.
Yeah.
huh,
Interesting.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because gosh, that is a question of how will they know? I mean, so do you suggest using a plugin or just creating a simple form like you were saying you did for a client?
Yeah, so I did this a couple years ago, so the information isn't fresh. But we looked through WordPress repository for different review taking plugins. And then we installed them and tested them. Most of them failed in that they weren't giving an aggregate review, or the thing they were reviewing was a product when the website was not selling a product. And that would get us in trouble because we're reviewing a product that we're not selling.
Yeah.
And so the review has to be reviewing something. It's not an aggregate rating of reviews, it's an aggregate rating of reviews of something. So What we ended up having to do the best way we could think it was we used advanced custom fields because the developer I worked with was very versed in advanced custom fields. And he built this intake system. And the intake system took in every submission of forms from the review page. And I'll go ahead and say what exactly it did. If you gave us 1 or 2 stars, we said, thank you, please, we will contact you shortly so we can remedy your problem. And we did not display those 1 or 2 stars on the website. Mm-hmm. Then if it was 3 or 3, we said, thank you. And we could opt in whether we wanted to show it or not. And if it was 4 or 5, we said, thank you, we displayed it, and we said, hey, would you like to review us on these other websites too? Mm-hmm. And so what that system did, we did curate things, but what we got was, so technically we were curating despite what Google said we should be doing, but Google, there's no way they could have known that. I'm not doing this on any current site, so I feel comfortable.
Well, don't make it public.
Yeah, I'm telling everybody what we did a few years ago. I don't do this any longer, but that's how we did this.
Okay.
So now, what can be reviewed? Under reviews now at the very top, these things can be reviewed: a book, a course, an event, how to, a local business, a movie, a product, a recipe, a software app, and then some other things. So if one of these things would benefit your business, then you could consider including reviews. So for Amazon, they offer all kinds of products. And so they could put this review system on their site. They do have a review system on their site. And guess what? They would qualify for star ratings in the search results. Now, this goes to your question, Tricia. You're asking about, do you put it on one page or on every page for the service, right? Notice services is not something that Google considers review worthy. It's not listed here, but the local business is. So you could do a page. So for instance, if you had a business that was one business, you probably would do something like this on the home page because that's where you would be reviewing that business. If you had a business with many, like let's say you had a pest control business in a large city and they had several different locations, well, then you might set up one of these to review each one of the locations as a different local business. So that's when it goes to, if we're using reviews in this capacity, we have to review something, one of these things.
What about like a how-to, meaning, so for example, I've been working on a lot of membership sites, association sites, and I might write a post about that, like do a project review of a site. Could I post a review on that page?
So how-to is a specific kind of schema that is not necessarily related to reviews. And you can see how this looks. The how-to schema shows in the search results steps 1, 2, 3, and whatever. And then you open them up and you can see the entire contents of each step.
Yeah.
The downside of the great side of this is great. You've taken up a ton of screen real estate in the search results. You are going to stand out. The downside of this is that some people may never ever visit your site because you've given away the farm to Google. There's no reason to visit your site if I got all 5 how-to steps here. And you'd have no way to know that people were finding this valuable because you'd be giving Google all this data. And it's that how-to that's being reviewed. So it's not, I have a how-to page, review this how-to page. It's, I have a how-to schema, which then Google can choose to display in the search results, and then it's reviewed. So This in FAQ schema are two schemas I do not use because you give away things to Google that I want them to come to my site to see. I don't want them to go there. And I don't want to, Google has enough information. They need to be sending me some traffic.
You said 2, you don't do the how to and the what?
FAQ and how to.
Oh.
Right? Because of this, it's giving stuff to Google that basically stealing content from me. I'm empowering Google to display my content on their site. I don't want them to do that. I want the traffic. I want the traffic and I want the chance to get the customer. This is not going to do that. So that's what's being reviewed.
Okay.
Okay. So courses is a great, I have a couple clients who offer courses. We've worked really hard to get reviews for the courses. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to get Google to register the stars because even though all the stars are uncurated, it's not readily seen from the website how those are being accumulated. They're being accumulated back end and honestly, and not curated. But because of that, Google can't verify or doesn't feel confident enough to verify that these are genuine review. And so they're not doing it in the search results. So we have to change the way they do review systems to do it.
Allie, you guys should look into how you could, with your system, they do offer reviews, right? I think.
The problem is for the service we provide is regulated by the BACB, and there are really strict ethical guidelines regarding posting reviews and testimonials. Like we can't use any kind of review or testimonial for any active client within like the last calendar year, I think. It's like super, super strict. And so that is one of the reasons that we have started like encouraging or asking our employees and our families to leave reviews, but we can't pull those reviews onto our website. We can only tell them like, hey, if you're happy with us, can you go in and do this? You know, but that's it. Like, and we've tried to think of like ways around it, but there really isn't an ethical way for us to increase that aspect of what we do. So it's
Okay.
it's
That's a
little
great
bit
point,
well-known
because-
kind of issue in the industry that it is difficult for businesses to kind of get their feet because of that.
And I work with a law firm and they have a similar issue where they don't want to give away their names of their clients by asking them to review publicly and mention the kind of cases that, like, some people don't want to talk about it, right? It was a terrible tragedy, let alone. So what we've done is we've said, hey, accounting firm who works at a law firm, can you review us as a business? Hey, cleaning service. Hey, partner of some sort. Hey, company that does graphics for us when we litigate. And they've gone through all their partners. And they're legitimate reviews because the partners can say, you're a jerk and I hate working with you and I'm not going to give you a review, or I'm going to tell everybody what a jerk you are at work. So they're legitimate reviews, but they've approached partners and things like that to get kind of their critical mass of reviews because of a similar kind of situation. But I'm glad you said that, Allie, because some industries are so heavily regulated, you could get big trouble. So you need to double check that.
Yeah, I've noticed like even like this one doctor asked, they said that they would give me a discount on a service if I made a review. And I thought that's like illegal, right?
Yeah.
It kind of borders on HIPAA violation.
Like they're paying me. Yeah, it was medical.
But also, well, medical is one thing, but also you have the fair, what is it? Truth, fair something in truth in advertising,
Right.
because they have gone after businesses that gave maybe even not monetary but something in exchange for reviews. That's a big
my dad, I question the ethics of this. One of the pet companies like that does like toys and stuff, I bought him something and he registered it, and what they do is they send him money to buy the product and then leave a review of the product, so that they're technically not paying him for the review. And they're not giving him, it's like, it's such a twisty thing.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, they don't ask me to give a 5-star review. They asked me to give an honest review. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, I don't understand why they're doing it like that. And I'm like, they're doing it because they can't just tell you, here's $20, give us a review. Like,
Give a 1-star review and see if they ask him to do it again.
yeah. And it's like, you see it on Amazon a lot with like
Yeah.
NetGalley.
That
for
was what I
books,
was gonna say,
where it's
Amazon.
like, oh, I received a free copy of this book in exchange for my honest review and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I got my first pair of counterfeit Gucci socks from China because they can't send seeds anymore. So what happened is somehow someone just purchased a set of socks and sent it to my address, so they could then go into Google, Amazon, and get a review, and it would say this person purchased the product. It doesn't say I did it because they don't really care. They just bought it as a gift, as far as they're concerned. So that's why those seed packages. I got Gucci socks off, not real Gucci socks. I just went to trash. But that's exactly what's going on there with those kind of weird.
Yeah.
It came from China. I'm like, I didn't know if I should touch it. Like, this is not the right time of the world to get things from unsolicited packages from foreign countries.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I
so
do think that a lot of those are against Amazon guidelines, probably
are.
because Amazon wants you as well to have valid reviews. So,
Right. And so does Google, and that's what we were talking about here, right? And even we it could be really easy to game this system, because how would Google know? How did Google know I didn't, the person reviewing didn't, got the socks or not, or Amazon in this case, right? Amazon doesn't know I got the socks and they didn't really get it. They purchased something. It seems legit as far as they can tell. So I'm of the opinion that we should always tread cautiously when we approach Google. And even if you went to the trouble of setting up reviews on your page, that's going to help you when your customer comes there and sees you got reviews. Even if Google says, we don't trust your reviews, we're not going to display them in the search results. If you do take the extra effort to build the system that they expect to see in order to get that, wow, that's a heck of a win, right? Getting these reviews, the stars there, would be a wonderful win for any business.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. So, that's where you get into this idea of, okay, it's going to help you, but it might be too much work to help you from an SEO perspective, but it still could be beneficial.
And I see organizations down there, so that's good, like nonprofits and stuff.
Well, technically, my for-profit company is an organization as well.
Yeah.
An organization schema is basically the schema that describes anything. And then here's the site on schema.org. It could be a school, an NGO, a corporation, a club. It could be any organization. In fact, if you're using Yoast plugin, it automatically sets up your website as either a person or an organization. You pick which one you are. And it's giving you organization schema. It's saying, hey, Google, this is an organization, or this is a person, if that's what's going on. And so since you are set up as an organization, you could theoretically use review markup to review that organization.
So you can.
Mm-hmm. It could,
So
any of us have our organizations. Yeah, sorry.
So we can do it as a local business or as an organization.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so you're going to show us how, and could you put these links in the chat for us?
Yeah.
Also the one for the Google search, the first one you showed.
Yeah. Where did I get the chat? Where are you, chat? All right. Having a hard time getting chat. I'll get it for you. yeah, so the structured data testing tool. So here, I'll just show you a couple things. So the how-to is going to be a lot harder to show because it is, but what we can do is we can copy their code here.
Oh, that's the review snippet.
We can run this test. Here's why I like this tool.
Ooh, neat.
Warning, this tool is being shut down. We know that.
When's it being shut down? Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. That's a good question. Yeah, too bad I dismissed it.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah. They've been threatening for a while, but
Hopefully they'll wait till Schema gets it. and then-
I think they will. Enough people were angry about this because
Yeah.
the rich results test does not nearly give this detail.
Yeah, this is nice.
Yeah. So here we go. This is, we get all the elements of it displayed here. This is a organization. And this is a review, the name of the review, the content of the review. There's an image associated with this, but you can click on each of these things and you'll notice over on the left, it shows you. So you can actually go and you can say telephone number 867-5309. And there you go. It changes it here, right? So one way to do this is to find the code off of this page. Now what we did, we pulled a review, but to show the star rating in Google, you can't use the review, you have to use the aggregate review. And that is the aggregate rating, which is an aggregation of several of the reviews. So we can then go, we can pull this. And that's what we're really going to have to see. Oh, and it even gives us an error. Oh, one warning, price field is recommended. Oh, okay, so it's recommended, not required. So what I've done before when I've had to do this manually is I will go in and copy code from the page of nested aggregate rating. There we go. Where is that what we want? No, that's not what we want. Anyway, you can pull the code from the page and you can tweak around this until it's accurate for your site.
Mhm.
And in this case, we're using JSON. So in that case, we just need to put it displayed in the HTML. But remember, JSON is just code that the computer can read, but humans can't. And in order for us to qualify for the snippets, we have to be able to see how many people rated in each of their ratings and be able to see that. So you can't just put this code on your site and for the star rate, even if you are honest and accurate and only showing the right ones, you'd still have to have a way to display it. So in that sense, we might have to use something like microdata, which is a totally different way of doing this. But that would allow us to have the actual elements of the HTML to be encoded with item scope, item type. We're reviewing a product. Here's the brand, the name of the product, an image, the aggregate rating. The aggregate rating is 4.4 based on 89 review. You see how we've done it? So if you were to show this in a page, this would render out in human readable, but it's because it's using schema, in this case, using microdata schema. The Googlebot's able to read this and see what the 89 means, right? Because we're telling it it's a rating count. And so in this case, and so look at here, preview. And this is one of the cool things. So this generating the preview, it's saying we can see that they would be 4 stars, and this is a preview of what it might look about in the Google search. So you can play around with this HTML, but you're going to have to add a couple other things to this. Because this is an aggregate, you need to have all the different reviews listed individually within this, properly formatted. You'd need to have a form on the page that seems to be taking these in so that it could, looks like you're accepting reviews from everybody. But that's where I start when I do Schema, is I will play with the HTML or the JSON here in this tool and then validate it. It tells me where the errors are. I can fix them.
So I guess question though, because you've got this that you're putting in, but you also have to have something on the site that accepts new ones. So anytime you get a new one, you have to go in and edit this, right?
Right. Yes. Or whatever system you build that's taking it is generating this output,
Okay. Okay.
this properly formatted output.
And
Okay.
you put it in SiteKit. You just copy this into SiteKit or what? Or no?
No, you could not use something like SiteKit or Tag
Oh,
Manager
this is on
to
the
do this.
page. Sorry. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So at one point you could use Google Tag Manager to just put JSON in Schema. It does no longer work.
Hmm.
So it has to be hard coded in to your site. Now you're seeing why not a lot of people do it. It's pretty tough.
Yeah.
It's pretty tough. It's possible. But before you do it, make sure that you're using one of the forms that is proper and just test. Keep testing. Read the guidelines. Display all the reviews so they can verify that there is as many reviews as you say, and do some math and calculate. It can validate these pretty well. Having a form on your site to take these is good. It might be a lot of work, but then again, it might be worth it. But going back to the beginning, what I really like about this is, even if Google says, we don't trust your views, we're not going to give you the star rating in the search results, you're giving people a bunch of reviews on your website when they go and they say, oh, look at all these people who trust this service. So it helps from a conversion perspective, even if it doesn't help from an SEO perspective. So maybe the first step is to build a system to take in and display reviews. And the second step is to use the microdata markup to encode it using the aggregate rating. So at the very least, you get some reviews. So people land on your pages can say, oh, this is a credible company.
And would Gravity Forms allow us to take in these reviews as well? Like, have you seen Gravity Forms do it?
Actually, you know what? I did believe that was part of the system. It used Gravity Forms and displayed it using advanced custom fields. So you might be able to do something like that. Again, this was a few years ago. We jerry-rigged this together. And but that's what you had to do it. It could be that there's already existing plugin for this somewhere, because it's been a few years since I've looked for one. But now thanks to the structured data testing tool, you can test to see if it's right.
Okay.
What I found was a lot of those plugins were either reviewing a product, or the schema wasn't even valid.
You gonna give us those URLs?
Yes. Let me stop sharing so I can find the chat.
I just put my thing in the chat. I have to go. Are you putting those in now?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'll wait just a second then, because I want those. Okay, I've got to go. I'll see you all later. See you all in 2021.
Happy New Year.
New Year. Bye, everyone.
Bye. I think that's probably a good point for us all to end too. I think we've probably
Yeah.
have more questions now that we've opened up a ton of more doors.
Could you give us the link also to the first site you showed us with the search, all the various
Yeah,
schema data options there were?
yeah,
Remember you were talking about breadcrumbs and other things.
I can do that one as well.
Search gallery.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, everybody have a wonderful New Year's,
You too.
and we'll look forward to seeing you next year.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Take
Good night,
care.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.